A student falls from the school building after being pushed by another student and is taken to the hospital where he is treated but does not wake up. And after 3 months, the nurse informs the guardian that the student is not going to wake up because no one has ever recovered after being diagnosed as a vegetative person, and the grandmother becomes angry with the nurse for saying this. The student named Hyun-sung lies on the bed unable to open his eyes or move his body, but he hears everything happening around him, and even though his body shows no sign of life, his mind stays awake and aware of what is being said in the room. The grandmother holds his hand and tells him to wake up, and even though he feels the warmth of her hand, he is not able to respond or move, like he is locked inside a dark place where nothing works and no one can hear him. She sits beside him and talks about how she cannot give up because she raised him after his parents passed away, and he is the only family she has, and all she wants is some kind of signal to know that he is still there. Hyun-sung tries his best to move, but nothing happens, and days pass in silence as his mind waits without any change. And one day, his younger brother Hyujin visits him and breaks down while talking about how the students who bullied Hyun-sung are now bullying him. Hyujin cries as he talks about their grandmother's hard work to pay the hospital bills and how everything is falling apart, and then says that maybe it would have been better if Hyun-sung died and asks him to wake up. But even after hearing this, Hyun-sung cannot move or cry or respond. He tells himself that this must be a dream and tries to believe that if he waits a little longer, he will wake up, and time goes on as weeks turn into months and months into years. 3 years pass and Hyun-sung still lies on the bed with his eyes closed and his body still, and one day he hears a nurse say that his grandmother fainted, and instead of being worried, the nurses sound happy because now they can turn the volume of the TV up without anyone stopping them. This makes Hyun-sung feel angry inside, and he remembers the names and faces of all the students and teachers who heard him or ignored what happened, and he swears that if he ever gets a chance to go back, he will destroy all of them. He keeps imagining the scenes in his mind where he attacks Park Min-chul and all the other students who were involved, thinking about how he will take revenge for everything that happened to him and his family. The years keep passing, and Hyun-sung keeps planning inside his head, building a perfect way to get back at all of them, and cause more pain than they can handle. And even after 7 years, the plan in his mind becomes more clear. But even after 10 years, there is no change in his condition, and now he stops caring about revenge or anything else, and the only thing he wants is for someone to end his life. Suddenly, he sees a light inside the darkness, and sees a person who looks exactly like him, and the next moment he opens his eyes and finds himself sitting inside a classroom. He thinks it is just another dream about the same day again, but when he pinches his mouth, he feels pain. And when he pulls out the pen stuck in his leg, he realizes that it is not a dream but something real. He looks around the classroom and sees Park Min-chul hitting a fat student because he refused to help him. And when he sees that, Hyun-sung's eyes show anger because he knows this is the beginning of everything. He walks up to Min-chul, and when Min-chul turns around trying to scare him like before, Hyun-sung does not wait and punches him straight in the mouth. Even after 10 years pass, Hyun-sung clearly remembers the day everything started, the day he saw what bullying really looked like, when Min-chul, a student who never paid full attention in class and always acted like school was just a boring place, turned his eyes toward Lee, the quiet but smart student. And because Min-chul was playing the most popular game at that time, he noticed Lee and decided to use him. That day, Lee became Min-chul's game shuttle, doing things for him without choice, and over time, Lee's scores began to fall, and he started to lose focus because the pressure from school and from Min-chul built up inside him until the day he could not take it anymore and refused to help. That moment was when Hyun-sung, still just a student trying to avoid trouble, saw the first act of violence in front of his own eyes, and even though he never wanted to step in and make problems for himself, he could not ignore what was happening to Lee, who had helped him in the past with his studies. Hyun-sung knew very well that if he helped Lee, then Min-chul would come after him next. But still, he walked forward to stop Min-chul, and just before anything worse could happen, a teacher arrived and the fight broke apart. But from that moment onward, everything changed. From that day, Min-chul and his group began targeting Hyun-sung, hitting him every day and treating him like he was not even a person, and sometimes even after school, he could not rest, could not sleep, and the only word that matched his life at that time was hell. Now in the present moment, after returning to that very same time and same classroom, Hyun-sung lands a punch right on Min-chul's face, which makes Min-chul burn with anger. But before he can react or even think to defend himself, Hyun-sung grabs his head and slams it down hard into the desk. Minchul begins shaking in pain, not used to being hurt like this, but Hyun-sung does not stop, because he knows very well that Minchul is the kind of person who uses his big body to scare others, and has never experienced what it feels like to be truly hit. So if Hyun-sung stops now, he will lose all the advantage. For 10 years straight, he kept repeating this scene inside his head, practicing the timing and the moves, and now he throws Minchul toward the wall and starts kicking him without pause. Soon, Minchul's group arrives and watches in shock, and one of the bigger students orders Hyun-sung to stop, then hurls a chair toward him. But Hyun-sung dodges it and finally speaks back. Young Minho, another gang member, wonders what is happening and why Hyun-sung, who used to stay calm and quiet, is suddenly standing up against them, even though he knows that if he touches Minchul, they will not let it go. The big guy steps forward, more angry now, and gets ready to fight. And it becomes clear that even though they call it Minchul's gang, the real strongest one in the group is Kang Chang-seok, who now gets ready to face Hyun-sung. Just when the tension rises, someone shouts about the arrival of a teacher, and Minchul, still hurt and embarrassed, tells Chang-seok to wait and take care of Hyun-sung after school. Chang-seok walks past Hyun-sung and says that he will beat him up later, then leaves the room, and class begins. But Minchul cannot sit still because what Hyun-sung did in front of everyone makes him feel small and powerless. He decides that after class ends, he will get back at Hyun-sung with help from his group. Minchul keeps thinking about how Hyun-sung, even though he was class president and often stepped in when students were being loud or unfair, never really crossed the line, and that's why Minchul never targeted him before. But now everything has changed. Meanwhile, in another part of the school, Chang-seok and Minho wait for class to end, and Minho wonders if Hyun-sung took something strange, or if Cho Young-taek spread some rumor around school, and even though it is unclear what triggered Hyun-sung, they now want to punish him for humiliating their group. Minho decides to crush Hyun-sung to remind him that their group should never be looked down upon, even if others start talking about what happened. Finally, when class ends, Minchul gets up ready to act, but before he can take a step, Hyun-sung moves again and punches Minchul without a word, picking up the fight right where they stopped. Minchul looks at Hyun-sung, wondering if he really plans to fight them all by himself. In another classroom, Minho and the rest of his group also leave their seats, heading straight to Hyun-sung's room, all of them knowing what they are about to do. And as they turn the hallway corner and approach the door, they spot a large crowd of students gathered outside, voices low but filled with surprise. And Minho, recognizing the scene immediately, starts rushing forward because he knows exactly what must be happening inside the classroom. His guess turns out to be true, because inside, Hyun-sung is once again landing punches on Minchul without hesitation or pause. And when Minho and the other gang members step through the doorway, Hyun-sung looks at them with tired eyes and simply tells them they are late, as if he was expecting them the whole time. At that moment, Chang-seok moves forward without wasting even a second, aiming to take Hyun-sung down in one clean strike. But Hyun-sung already understands that no matter how many times he dreams about taking revenge on Minchul, he could never come up with a clear way to beat Chang-seok using only his current body strength. So instead of relying on raw power, he looks around and grabs the metal door lock nearby, swinging it with perfect timing and hitting Chang-seok right on the weak spot at the side of his head. The metal clang echoes in the room, and with that one hit, Chang-seok collapses on the floor, unconscious, which shows clearly how far Hyun-sung is willing to go to get his revenge, even if the method is not clean or fair. Then, without any pause for thinking or planning, Hyun-sung turns and charges toward Young-taek and slams him out into the hallway, pushing him against the wall so hard that the impact shakes the nearby lockers. And once Young-taek is pinned down, Hyun-sung starts throwing punches again and again until Young-taek falls unconscious just like the others. Even though Hyun-sung now stands alone against Minchul's entire group, and even though his arms are heavy and his legs barely hold him up anymore because his body is reaching its limits, he refuses to stop or back down. And now it is Minho's turn. Minho watches all of this unfold and begins trembling because he sees that Hyun-sung has beaten everyone else and looks completely different from the calm class president he once knew. And all he can think of now is that maybe Hyun-sung is some kind of monster who no longer follows any rules. As Hyun-sung steps toward him, Minho flinches and shakes, and Hyun-sung lifts his fist, ready to throw the final punch, But just then, the classroom door slams open and a teacher walks in, taking control of the situation, and Minho immediately feels a wave of relief wash over him because he knows this mess will now become a big issue for the school and Hyun-sung will have to face the consequences. But Hyun-sung does not show fear, he simply smiles quietly. Soon the teacher drags Hyun-sung to the staff room, where the scolding begins immediately, and the teacher, wanting nothing to do with the situation, tries to put all the blame on Hyun-sung. Alone, acting confused as to why someone who always stayed quiet would suddenly cause such a huge fight, and he warns Hyun-sung that this isn't something the school can handle quietly anymore, that the parents of the injured students will not let it go. Hyun-sung simply laughs, not because it's funny, but because he already expected this outcome, and he tells the teacher not to make it into a bigger deal than necessary, reminding him that this isn't the first case of school violence, and suggesting that the teacher simply used the usual method to cover things up like he always does. That one line pushes the teacher over the edge and he throws a punch at Hyun-sung, but Hyun-sung takes the hit without flinching, and in fact, he had already predicted it because what destroyed his life once was not just the bullies but also the adults who refused to step in and protect the victims. Even now, Hyun-sung remembers the advisor Kim Young-chul, the one from the first class section, who used to receive money from parents under the table, and after taking the hit, Hyun-sung looks the teacher in the eye and tells him to stop before things get worse. And now it is Hyun-sung who threatens the adult. He says that if the teacher does not back off, then he will have no choice but to tell everyone about the bribes. And he also mentions other things, like how Young-chul has been secretly meeting the English teacher outside school. Hyun-sung starts speaking about a memory from his past, one that never left him even during those 10 years when he remained stuck in that unending darkness. And he remembers clearly how after enduring countless days of being bullied, pushed, humiliated, and ignored, he had finally decided to do something about it and had gone to the teacher's office to report the bullying, where he explained every detail he could remember, every incident that happened to him and his friends. Yet, the teacher, Young-chul, had shown no interest in digging deeper or uncovering the truth, and instead simply called Min-chul over and told him not to pick on other students, settling the entire issue with just that one shallow warning as if everything would magically go away. This so-called resolution only made Hyun-sung feel smaller, more helpless, and far more afraid than before, because the moment he stepped out of the staff room, Min-chul and his group, who now knew that Hyun-sung had dared to complain, cornered him and started beating him up in the hallway without hesitation, and while fists and kicks landed on him, Hyun-sung caught sight of Young-chul standing nearby, watching the whole thing unfold through the open door, making direct eye contact for just a second, but the man did absolutely nothing and turned away as if it had nothing to do with him. That was when Hyun-sung realized what kind of person Young-chul really was, someone who had already been exposed by rumors among a few students as the kind of teacher who took money from certain parents, and it didn't take long for Hyun-sung to discover that Minho's family had been supporting Young-chul financially from the start. Still, Hyun-sung didn't give up. He tried to hold on, to fight back even if it was pointless. But that day, things escalated far beyond control, and because of the violence, the school summoned both Hyun-sung's and Minho's guardians, and though Hyun-sung had no one but his aging grandmother by his side, Minho's well-dressed, influential mother entered the office full of rage, accusing Hyun-sung of everything after Minho lied and shifted all the blame. Hyun-sung's grandmother, despite everything, could only bow and apologize again and again, forced to do so just to protect her grandson from further consequences. But Minho's mother wasn't satisfied with that and proceeded to register Hyun-sung's name in the school's violence committee, branding him as the sole culprit while Min-chul's gang continued their school life untouched, laughing in the hallways, untouched by the punishment or shame. This was the turning point that pushed Hyun-sung's life toward the edge, the incident that preceded his fall into a coma, and during those long years of silence, he had come to a harsh conclusion that no matter how strong he became, revenge would never be complete unless he addressed the adult interference and tore down the shield protecting the bullies. Back in the present, Young-chul now trembles slightly as he listens to Hyun-sung unfold every one of his secrets, still trying to act composed but failing, because Hyun-sung continues with calm clarity, listing how Young-chul had been looking after Minho in exchange for money long before Hyun-sung had even enrolled in the school, and not stopping there, he brings up the hotel where Young-chul and the English teacher had been seen together, a place that became the center of gossip in the later years. Hyun-sung, sitting down in the chair across from him, tells Young-chul that he can ruin his career without lifting a finger, And if Young Chul keeps pushing him, he will do exactly that, and since Hyun Sung had already witnessed all of it unfold. In his previous life, including the day when Young Chul's wife stormed into the school, slapped him in front of the staff, and filed for divorce while revealing that all the property he claimed was legally under her name, he knows this is the one threat Young Chul fears the most. Faced with that truth, Young Chul gives in completely and agrees to do whatever Hyun Sung asks, and Hyun Sung tells him to stay out of his business, to remain a silent bystander no matter what happens, to keep all incidents from escalating no matter the method, and in return, he will keep the secrets buried until the day he graduates, a deal that leaves Young Chul with no choice but to comply. With that, Hyun Sung steps out of the staff room, finally playing his first real card in this long game of revenge, knowing that he must act quickly to prepare more, but for now, there are still gang members left to face. The scene shifts to Minho, who has lost control in the classroom, throwing chairs and yelling, filled with anger and frustration, and though he reassures himself that Young Chul will clean up the mess as always because of the money his mother sends, deep down, he begins to panic because the fear he felt when Hyun Sung punched him hasn't left him. Still, he convinces himself that it must have been luck that allowed Hyun Sung to win, that it won't happen again. And while Minho sits in denial, staring at the floor, the door opens and Hyun Sung walks in without hesitation, simply stating that it's time to finish what they started. Before Minho can react, Hyun Sung hits him again, knocking him to the ground, and then unleashing a storm of punches that leaves Minho begging for help. But none of the students around them move, not a single one willing to step in. In that moment, Minho sees Young Chul standing by the door, watching, and hope flickers in his eyes for a second, but it dies quickly because Young Chul does nothing at all and turns away. Hyun Sung continues beating him and calmly says that no one in this school will save him now. 5 minutes earlier, right after Hyun Sung left the staff room, Young Chul sat frozen in place, his thoughts spinning in panic as he tried to find a way to clean up the mess before it exploded further. Because now that Minho was involved, the issue had become more complicated, Minho's parents being the school's financial backbone and directly tied to the principal himself, and if Hyun Sung truly beat Minho, the consequences would reach beyond just disciplinary action, potentially affecting funding, reputation, and his own personal safety. Young Chul thinks the only solution is to stop Hyun Sung before he lays a hand on Minho, believing that if he could just delay that one fight, he could salvage the situation and protect both himself and the school's ties to Minho's family. So he rushes out of the staff room, trying to find Hyun Sung, but when he turns the corner, it's already too late. Minho is on the ground, Hyun Sung is standing over him, fists landing with cold resolve, and the students around frozen, silent, helpless. Young Chul halts in his tracks and hesitates, calculating in an instant whether it's worth stepping in or turning a blind eye, and when he remembers how Hyun Sung threatened him, the risk of his affair being exposed and how fragile his position is, he steps back into the shadows and walks away, choosing silence over confrontation. Meanwhile, Hyun Sung continues his assault with calm precision, thinking back to all those times when he was told that it was his fault for being weak, that he deserved it, that no one would help him. And now, as Minho trembles in fear and calls out for help, he sees how cowardly the powerful become when faced with someone stronger, and with no one daring to stop him, not even Young Chul, Hyun Sung tells Minho that no one in this school will come to save him. Hyun Sung finishes his business and leaves the room, knowing well what will follow. And as expected, Principal Oh Dae-hwan calls a meeting, his voice firm, declaring that Hyun Sung is to blame because the school must protect its image and its investors. And since Minho's parents are the source of money and influence, the easiest solution is to punish Hyun Sung harshly and restore order. All the teachers agree, including English teacher Lee Min-young, who suggests expulsion. But before the final decision can be made, Young Chul interrupts, nervous and sweating, trying to steer the conversation away from immediate action by claiming he already had reports of Min Chul's gang bullying students and that Hyun Sung simply acted prematurely out of desperation. He portrays Hyun Sung as a victim who reacted under pressure, hoping that softening the narrative will delay any irreversible punishment, and while Principal Dae-hwan doesn't fully buy it, he agrees to a compromise, a disciplinary review committee. Will be held in 1 week, and until then, Hyun Sung will be suspended from school and must return with his guardian. The moment the meeting ends, Young Chul runs after Hyun Sung, explaining how he tried to help, that the situation got worse only because Hyun-sung touched Minho, and that he did all he could to lessen the damage. But Hyun-sung, calm and cold, listens, without responding at first, then reminds Young Chul of the deal they made, how he is to obey without question until graduation, and that if he falters even once, not only will he expose Young Chul's secrets, but also destroy Min Young's career. Alongside his, Young Chul lowers his head, clearly shaken, and Hyun-sung walks away without saying more, suppressing his irritation because he knows he can't afford to throw away such a useful card this early, not when there's still so much groundwork left to prepare. He reaches the classroom, picks up his bag, and walks out of school with quiet steps, not bothered by the suspension, because this 1 week isn't a punishment, but an opening, a space in time where he can move pieces outside the school's view, setting up a trap that even Daewon wouldn't see coming until it's far too late. Walking down the familiar street, Hyun-sung feels a wave of nostalgia wash over him as he reaches the entrance of his old home, a house that now feels more like a place of refuge than it ever did before, a house so cheap that it was only possible to live in because of his parents' life insurance money. For a long time, Hyun-sung had resented this house, but now, after everything that has happened, he feels a deep gratitude for having a place to call home, especially when he remembers how his grandmother had sold it to pay for his hospital bills, a sacrifice that had torn him apart the moment he learned of it. Now, standing in front of the door, he opens it and steps inside, the house empty as his grandmother is at work, and as he sets foot in the quiet space, he makes a firm decision in his heart. He will not let his emotions take hold, not if he wants to help his family, to give them a better life, to turn things around. Without wasting any more time, he walks into the small room, opens a notebook, and starts writing his plan. He knows that this is his chance, not only to take revenge on those who have wronged him, but to provide a good life for his brother and grandmother, to make sure they never have to struggle again. His plan isn't just about revenge, it's about securing a future. He knows that within 2 years he needs to establish a solid base, to take control of the surrounding territory, to make their home safe, to clear the threats they've lived with all this time. The first thing on his list is his physical strength. It's crucial for the battles ahead, and he knows exactly what he needs to do. The first step being to rope in a certain individual who will give him a huge advantage in the upcoming fights. The second condition is no less important. He will have to gather a large group of people, those who share his goal, to take down the organization behind the bullying, but he also knows this is the hardest part, because he's just a freshman, and it won't be easy to find the right people or make them follow him. The third and final condition, the one that only Hyun-sung can fulfill, is his ability to use the knowledge he has of the future, to create a background that will erase all the problems standing in his way, to make it impossible for anyone to stop him once he sets his plan in motion. It's the key to everything, the foundation of his strategy. The scene shifts to a police station, where a man is causing a scene, shouting at the officers as they drag him in, his frustration building with every passing moment. He's called an adult by the officer who tries to calm him down, but the man, infuriated by the label, corrects them, revealing that he is just a 35-year-old single man with a bright future ahead. His name is Go Chang-beom, the eldest son of Myeongjin Construction, and even though he could easily ruin the life of the officer in front of him, he knows that right now, he needs to be cautious, as the company is in the middle of a succession war, a battle for the future leadership of the company between him and his brother. Changbum's worry grows as he sits in the interrogation room, the officers telling him to admit fault for the incident, accusing him of beating innocent people, but Changbum, insisting that he was defending himself, struggles to prove his innocence. The officer asks for proof, but without CCTV footage, they have no way to discredit the victim's testimony. Changbum begins to panic when he notices someone in the station, a familiar face, and then he realizes it's Hyun-sung, the same Hyun-sung who, despite everything, is now here to testify on his behalf. Hyun-sung calmly presents the evidence, a video from a nearby car's black box that shows the whole incident, proving that the other party attacked first, and Hyun-sung, having witnessed everything, confidently states that it was a case of self-defense, clearing Changbyum's name. Changbyum, seeing his innocence proven, agrees with Hyun-sung, and the police officer, now seeing the truth, settles the matter, apologizing for not listening to Changbyum's side of the story. Before leaving, Changbyum, still visibly relieved, thanks Hyun-sung and offers him money for his trouble, which Hyun-sung accepts without hesitation. Changbum finds Hyun-sung's calm and efficient demeanor intriguing, noting how different he is from the typical student, and Hyun-sung, seizing the moment, asks if Changbum believes this incident is merely a coincidence. Without waiting for a response, Hyun-sung lays it all out, revealing that he knows about Changbum's battle with his brother Go Chan-seok for the position of heir to Myungjin Construction. Changbum, though angry at being confronted so directly, is taken aback as Hyun-sung continues, explaining that when he was in his vegetative state, he had heard about Changbum's rise to prominence and the events surrounding Myungjin Construction, which led him to remember everything that was about to unfold within the company and his family. Hyun-sung then offers Changbum a proposal, asking for 1 hour of his time, promising that it will be worth both his time and his future. Hyun-sung pulls out his phone and shows Changbum the real video from the black box, revealing the footage that he hadn't shown at the police station. The first part of the video is crucial, showing exactly what happened to Changbum 30 minutes before the fight broke out. 3 men had gathered outside the convenience store, waiting for Changbum, and as soon as he left, they began provoking him, pushing him into a corner as if daring him to punch first. Despite his best efforts to keep his composure, Changbum eventually snapped and threw the first punch. Hyun-sung, who has been closely monitoring the situation, also points out the strange series of incidents that have been happening to Changbum ever since the succession war started. He doesn't mince words when he reveals that the mastermind behind these events is none other than Changbum's own brother, Chang-suk. Changbum, though visibly shocked, already knew deep down that his younger brother was behind it all, but he hadn't wanted to accept the truth. Hyun-sung, seeing the conflict in Changbum's eyes, asks why he is telling him all of this, knowing that such information could either break him or fuel him further. In his mind, Hyun-sung understands that the Myungjin Construction Company, though still largely unknown in the countryside, has immense potential. With a healthy balance sheet, superior technology, and a chairman who believes in never compromising on the quality of the buildings people live in, Myungjin is poised to become a front-runner in the apartment construction business. Over time, the company will improve its margins and rise to become one of the largest conglomerates in the country. However, the company's future rests on one bitter truth. Both of Go Myungjin's sons will ultimately vanish from the company, and Chang-suk is the one who will bring this downfall upon them. Hyun-sung explains that Chang-suk, in his ruthless desire for power, will stop at nothing to secure the succession. Eventually, Changbum will realize the truth and, in a fit of rage, will punch Chang-suk, causing permanent harm to his brother. This event will lead to Myungjin, in his fury, deciding that neither son is fit to lead, and thus announcing that he will hire an external manager to take control of the company. The fallout from this incident will be catastrophic, especially for the brothers, but it will be a boon for Myungjin Construction's future. For Hyun-sung, though, the future is irrelevant. He doesn't care about the ripple effect, the butterfly effect, or what consequences will unfold as a result of changing the future. His only goal is revenge and securing a better life for his family. With cold resolve, Hyun-sung tells Changbum that he can help him take revenge on Chang-suk and become the chairman of Myungjin Construction. Changbum laughs, dismissing the idea of a high school student being able to help him, but Hyun-sung immediately silences him, stating that the people Changbum thinks are on his side are actually spies working for Chang-suk. Hyun-sung insists that all he asks for is the chance to build a relationship based on trust, a relationship that could benefit both of them. Changbum, intrigued yet still hesitant, decides to take a moment to think it over and steps outside the cafe. As he walks out, a worker tries to stop him from smoking in a non-smoking area, but the worker quickly backs down when faced with Changbum's intimidating presence, apologizing nervously as he retreats. Hyun-sung, knowing Changbum's character, chooses him over Chang-suk for his plan. Changbum is ruthless enough to fight even his own brother if it means gaining power, and that kind of ambition is exactly what Hyun-sung needs in his corner. Meanwhile, Changbum reflects on his position. If things continue as they are, Chang-suk will inevitably win and become the next leader of Myungjin. Still, Changbum is unsure about trusting a 17-year-old high school student with such a monumental task. However, he recalls the words his father once told him. If you don't have the skills yourself, stay close to those who do, regardless of their age, background, or life experience. Only then can you become strong enough to lead. With this in mind, Changbeom returns to Hyunsung, telling him to explain his plan fully so he can decide what to do next. Back with Changsuk, things are not going as smoothly. He receives a phone call about the failure of his plan to get Changbeom into trouble with the police. Furious, he throws his phone across the room, seething with anger. He has been working tirelessly to eliminate his brother from the succession race, all because their father still believes that the oldest son should inherit the company. However, Changsuk, despite his anger, calms himself, realizing that he still holds the upper hand. If nothing changes, he believes he will eventually win. Just then, he gets another call, and his expression hardens as the worker informs him that his wife has arrived at the office. Back with Hyunsung and Changbeom, the conversation continues. Hyunsung explains that although Changsuk is the more obvious choice for chairman, being well-educated, well-connected, and the younger son, Changbeom still has one advantage. He is the older brother. Despite his shortcomings, having only finished high school and being plagued by several scandals, Hyunsung believes that Changbum can still secure the position. The key is to bring Changsuk down to a level playing field, making it a fair fight for the succession. Changsuk, with all his advantages, is trying to take Changbeom's place, but Hyunsung tells Changbeom that he still has a chance. As long as their father has not formally named Changsuk as the successor, Changbeom is still in the race. The only way for him to win is to bring down Changsuk, to eliminate his brother's grip on the company and make it a fair fight. The story shifts once more to Changsuk, who is shocked when his wife enters his office. She is not alone. Another woman is with her, badly hurt and crying. Hyunsung tells Changbeom that to win the succession war, he needs 3 things. The first is background, but Changbeom is already behind in this aspect. While Changsuk was making powerful alliances, Changbeom spent his time associating with the wrong crowd in the red light district. The second thing is reputation. Changbeom may be popular, but it's a bad reputation. People only know him for his wild behavior and scandals. The third thing is ability. While Changbeom was enjoying drinks and distractions with women, Changsuk was focused on proving himself in business, building his accomplishments and reputation in the industry. Changbeom's fists clench in anger at the criticism, but he stays calm, listening to Hyunsung's strategy. Hyunsung goes on to explain that the first thing they need to break down is Changsuk's background. Since Changbeom can't marry into a powerful family or gain strong, supportive alliances, the only way to weaken Changsuk's position is to separate him from his wife. If Changsuk loses the support of his wife's influential family, he will be left vulnerable, and that would put both brothers on equal footing, with no obvious advantage for either. The scene then transitions to a tense family meeting with Myungjin and his 2 sons. Myungjin sits at the head of the table, addressing Changsuk. He tells him that he spoke with Changsuk's father-in-law and is trying to keep the situation from escalating to divorce. Changsuk repeatedly apologizes, but this only infuriates Myungjin more. He says, "If you wanted to act like you were single, you should have stayed unmarried, like your brother." Myungjin then turns to Changbeom and asks him why he has been spending so much time at the police station. He expects Changbeom to protest and claim innocence, which is exactly what he does. Back to the meeting between Changbeom and Hyunsung, Changbeom initially thinks that he needs to point out Changsuk's faults to their father to win. But Hyunsung quickly shuts this idea down. He remembers a documentary about Myungjin where it was revealed that Myungjin was fully aware of what his sons were doing. He knew about Changsuk's manipulative plans to sabotage Changbeom, but Myungjin chose not to intervene. He believed that letting them fight would ultimately yield results, as it would push both sons to prove themselves in ways that could benefit the company. Hyunsung realizes something crucial. If Changbeom tries to expose Changsuk's wrongdoings, it won't work. Myungjin might simply hire someone else entirely to take the lead. Therefore, the only way for Changbeom to win is to start acting like someone who is already prepared to lead the company, someone ready to be the chairman. With this realization, Hyunsung decides it's time to reveal the full plan to Changbeom. The scene shifts back to the family meeting. Myungjin is caught off guard when Changbeom suddenly stands up and apologizes. He promises to stay out of trouble, and says he will speak to Chang-suk to resolve the situation. Myungjin, surprised by this sudden change, actually feels proud. He expresses how pleased he is that Changbyum is taking responsibility and trying to handle the issue without escalating it into a bigger fight. After the meeting ends, both sons leave the room. Chang-suk is seething with rage. He knows that someone must have tipped off his wife about his affair, and he vows to find out who it was. Meanwhile, Changbyum feels a strange sense of satisfaction. Being praised by his father for the first time makes him feel good. He realizes he wants to keep feeling that way, and decides he's ready to follow Hyun-sung's plan. He meets with Hyun-sung again and declares that he's ready to do whatever it takes to win. Hyun-sung explains that Chang-suk has lost his advantage in background, but they still need to win one more round to secure Changbyum's position as chairman. Hyun-sung already has a plan in mind, but it will be difficult to execute. He tells Changbyum that in order to understand the company and the way it operates, Changbyum needs to join the company as a regular employee and learn everything from the inside out. Changbyum, now fully trusting Hyun-sung, agrees to follow his lead. Hyun-sung reminds him of their conversation at the cafe. They're working together because they both want something, and now it's time for Changbyum to keep his promise to Hyun-sung. Changbyum agrees without hesitation. Hyun-sung then reveals what he truly wants. To take down Chang-suk and ensure Myungjin Construction has a leader who can help it grow. That leader will be you. The story shifts to the day of the review committee. Minho's mother storms into the meeting room, slapping Young-chul in front of everyone. She threatens to have him fired and demands that Hyun-sung be expelled for humiliating her son. After her outburst, she storms out. But Young-chul remains calm, quietly stating that he will not be helping her. Later, Young-chul meets Hyun-sung in private, clearly uncomfortable. He tries to convince Hyun-sung to take the blame for everything, but Hyun-sung warns him. If he doesn't help, Young-chul may have to choose between two devastating truths: the secret money he took or the affair he's been hiding from his wife. Hyun-sung makes it clear that if he falls, Young-chul will fall with him. Young-chul, now visibly nervous, walks into the meeting room where the principal is talking with Minho's mother. He takes his seat, unsure of what to do. The meeting begins, and the principal asks Young-chul to address the situation. Standing up, Young-chul takes a deep breath and calmly explains that Minho and his group were the ones who started bullying other students. He firmly states that it's wrong for the bullies to act as though they're the victims, shifting the blame onto them in front of the committee. Young-chul's mind races as he comes to a surprising realization. Hyun-sung's legal advisor isn't just any advisor, he's the eldest son of Myungjin Construction. At first, Young-chul thought it was merely a coincidence, someone with the same name, but now he knows the truth. He wonders how someone so rich and powerful could become Hyun-sung's guardian. But instead of delving too deeply into it, Young-chul sees this revelation as an opportunity. This could be his chance to protect himself and secure his own future. Without overthinking it, he decides to support Hyun-sung. In the meeting room, the principal, clearly on edge, turns to Young-chul and asks him to explain what happened to clear up any confusion. Young-chul takes a deep breath and begins. He starts by explaining that he received complaints about Minchul's group bullying other students. Despite his warnings, they continued their cruelty. One day, Minchul started attacking another student, named Lee. Hyun-sung, witnessing this, stepped in to stop it, but Minchul and his group threatened him in return. Young-chul stresses that Hyun-sung was merely trying to protect himself. He also brings up the incident with Minho, where Minho hit Hyun-sung first, forcing him to defend himself. Young-chul acknowledges that Hyun-sung's way of handling things may have been harsh, but he insists to the committee that if they only punish Hyun-sung, they are ignoring the real issue of bullying. The principal, visibly sweating, tries to change the topic, mentioning how this is the first time in school history that 4 students were sent to the hospital. The room buzzes with whispers, but the principal stubbornly refuses to take action against Minchul's group, citing a lack of proof. His true intentions are clear. He's siding with Minho, following the demands of Minho's mother, who wants revenge on Hyun-sung for harming her son. The principal then calls on Minho to speak. Minho plays the victim perfectly, acting as though he's innocent, blaming everything on Hyun-sung. His words are convincing, and the principal seems to be pleased. With his response, with his soft voice and fake tears, Minho paints himself as a kind, helpless boy. Then, Minho's mother stands up, praising her son and warning the other parents that what happened to her son could happen to anyone's child. But her real goal is clear. She wants Hyun-sung to be punished. After hearing Minho and his mother speak, most of the parents in the room agree with her, deciding that Hyun-sung should be punished. At the hospital, Min-cheol and his friends are recovering. They laugh and joke about how Minho's mother will make sure Hyun-sung gets punished. Min-cheol taunts Hyun-sung, saying that even if he's expelled, they'll keep chasing him, demanding money for their injuries. They laugh, thinking it's all a joke at Hyun-sung's expense. Back in the school meeting, Chang-byum has had enough. He stands up abruptly, his presence commanding attention. He asks why everyone is pretending not to see that Minho is faking everything and planning all of this. The principal, feigning anger, tells Chang-byum not to call the students bad names, but Chang-byum stays calm and resolute. He reveals that he's looked into the case himself and discovered that Min-cheol's group has been bullying and stealing from students for a long time. It's such a well-known issue that Chang-byum accuses the committee of either ignoring it or taking bribes. He backs up Young-cheol's statement, agreeing that Hyun-sung was only trying to protect himself. He also insists that the real issue is bullying. Then, Chang-byum turns to the committee and asks them what they would have done if someone like Minho tried to beat them up. This strikes a nerve with Minho's mother. She stands up furious and demands to know who Chang-byum is. She's surprised to see someone defending Hyun-sung, especially knowing that his parents are dead. The scene shifts to a car where Hyun-sung is talking to Chang-byum. Hyun-sung, with a clear and calculated expression, asks Chang-byum to become his sponsor. He admits that he needs Chang-byum's money, but more importantly, he needs his power. Hyun-sung reveals that he has big plans and intends to create problems at school that will attract the attention of the law. For that, he needs Chang-byum's protection and help cleaning things up afterward. If Chang-byum stands behind him, Hyun-sung believes that no one in Daesun will dare to touch him. Hyun-sung makes a solemn promise. If Chang-byum helps him, he will ensure Chang-byum becomes the chairman of Myeongjin Construction, or perhaps even something greater. Chang-byum agrees, intrigued by the idea. Handling situations like this, cleaning up messes, is something he excels at. Back in the present, Chang-byum throws down his company card on the table. With a firm, commanding tone, he announces to everyone that he is Hyun-sung's guardian and the eldest son of Myeongjin Construction. Everyone in the committee is stunned when they find out who Chang-byum really is, as he stands tall in the room, and with a calm but strong voice, he tells them that Hyun-sung is like a brother to him, and that he knows Hyun-sung would never fight, unless there was a very good reason behind it. And after hearing how the school is trying to blame Hyun-sung for something he didn't start, Chang-byum makes it clear that he had originally planned to support the school through his Myeongjin company, thinking it was a place of prestige, but after seeing how they treat Hyun-sung and how they are pushing him into a corner, he has decided he will no longer offer any support to a school that treats its students unfairly. His words make the room go quiet, and everyone looks at him, feeling the weight of his presence. Chang-byum looks around at the teachers and parents in the room and asks why they are trying to punish a student who only fought because he was protecting his friend. And then he asks why, after all this time, no one has done anything about the bullying in the school, why it's always allowed to continue, and with a strong, steady voice, he warns the principal that if the school doesn't change its ways and stop acting so unfairly, he will make sure the school can no longer operate in Daesun. He tells them that this is what real justice looks like, and everyone in the room is shocked by his words, but no one is more surprised than the principal, who suddenly realizes how serious the situation is, especially when he finds out that Hyun-sung's guardian is none other than the eldest son of the powerful Myeongjin company. The principal, seeing how much trouble he's in, quickly switches sides, realizing it's better to support Hyun-sung and Chang-byum now because they have the power to make the school famous across the country, and for the sake of the school's future, the principal chooses to betray Minho's mother and aligns himself with Hyun-sung. The principal agrees with Chang-byum, stating that he has heard about Min-cheol and his group bullying other students for a long time, and calls Minho the leader of that gang, which makes Minho's mother so furious that she wants to speak out, but the principal does not let her. He calmly says that he is not blaming Minho without reason and is only stating the facts, and that everyone needs to look at the whole situation before making any final decisions. Then, the principal says it is time for everyone to hear from Hyun-sung himself, and at last, the room becomes quiet and everyone listens. But Hyun-sung feels anger rise in him because, in his past life, no one ever listened to him, and that led to his tragic death, and so when he speaks, his voice carries all the frustration of years of being ignored and mistreated. He begins to speak about the bullying and how every time he tried to tell a teacher about Minchul's actions, the teachers brushed it off, saying it was just a joke between friends, and how, although some teachers promised to investigate, they never took it seriously, and in the end, this only made the bullying worse. One day, Hyun-sung finally snapped and hit Minho, sending him to the emergency room, and Hyun-sung asks why he is the only one being punished for using violence when this is the first time he has ever done so, and he points out that the real reason is because people see him as weak, and that if he dies, the school will just cover it up. Because to them, the poor are always at fault and the rich are always innocent. He says that the school needs to punish the ones who are truly hurting others, and if they don't do that, he will expose the truth to the whole country and turn the school into a national disgrace. He warns them that the only way to stop him is to give the right punishment. Minho's mother stands up, shouting that she will not allow her son to suffer for this, and calls her husband to tell him everything that's happening. But when her husband hears about Myungjin's involvement, he becomes furious and orders her to leave the school immediately and come meet him. That night, Hyun-sung lies in his bed at home, knowing the final decision has been made. Hyun-sung receives a punishment of 100 hours of volunteer work, but Minho and his gang are expelled from the school. As soon as the committee meeting ends, Minho, burning with anger, tries to attack Hyun-sung, but his mother stops him, and Hyun-sung looks at Minho and tells him to kneel and apologize. Minho asks why he should do that since he's already been expelled, but Hyun-sung tells him to ask his mother. Then, he leans in and whispers that Minho might want to calm his anger, because if he does, Hyun-sung might help him get back into the school. Minho's mother quickly tells her son to kneel, and with no other choice, Minho kneels down, apologizes, and promises never to bully anyone again. But Hyun-sung is not satisfied. He tells Minho that more trouble is waiting for him, and after the meeting ends, Hyun-sung takes another step toward finding out who the true mastermind behind everything is. After returning home, Hyun-sung receives a message from Minchul saying he wants to meet with him. Hyun-sung meets Minchul at the park, and Minchul looks relieved that Hyun-sung actually came. He says thank you, but Hyun-sung immediately asks him to get to the point. Minchul starts by apologizing for all the bullying he and his friends did, saying he regrets hurting others, and after spending a week in the hospital, he's realized that violence is never the answer, and now he wants Hyun-sung's help to avoid being expelled from school. He begs for another chance, hoping his life won't completely fall apart because of his actions. As Hyun-sung listens, he wonders how shocked Minchul must be at the thought of being expelled. Minchul is only 17, and his life hasn't been easy, so it'll be hard for him to find another school that will accept him. But then Minchul says something unexpected. He tells Hyun-sung that someone ordered them to bully him. Hyun-sung stays calm and responds that he already knows who is behind it. While Hyun-sung was in a coma during his past life, a student just like him jumped from the rooftop. This student left behind a letter that revealed the truth about a group called the Golden Circle, a powerful group in rich schools. Even now, Hyun-sung doesn't know all the members, but the person who started the Golden Circle saw bullying as a way to make money. He gathered bullies and targeted students with wealthy parents, promising to protect those rich kids at school. The members of the Golden Circle were known for their good grades, and if any other student started doing better than them, the bullies would step in and deal with that student. In the future, Hyun-sung remembers, the Golden Circle was exposed, but the truth never fully came out. No one found out who the members were, and if Hyun-sung wants real revenge, he knows he must destroy the Golden Circle completely. He grabs Minchul's hand tightly and tells him that the Golden Circle is behind everything. But he still doesn't understand how their power reached Daesun, since the group was only known to operate in Seoul and Gyeonggi-do. He asks Minchul how he was hired for this. Minchul says that a boy named Shin Young-min hired him, and Young-min is a powerful bully who controls the whole school. Hyunsung realizes that Youngmin might be connected to the Golden Circle because the group often uses others to handle smaller schools, and Youngmin could be the link between them. Youngmin is strong, like a trained fighter, and Hyunsung knows he can't beat him yet. Right now, he needs to deal with Minchul. He remembers how his mother had to beg for him in his past life, and he won't let that happen again. Hyunsung starts beating Minchul without hesitation, knowing that every time they meet he will hurt him, because in the past, Minchul and his friends had easy lives, and now Hyunsung wants them to suffer and live with fear for the rest of their lives. The next day at school, everyone is talking about the incident, and they all act like Hyunsung is the bad guy. But when he walks into the classroom, everything goes silent. He sits down at his desk, and soon a student named Lee walks up to thank him. But Hyunsung is cold. He asks Lee why he's trying to thank him when he was too afraid to speak up during the review meeting. Hyunsung tells him to go away and says he doesn't want to see him again. On the rooftop, Youngmin is talking with another student, and they discuss how their plan to bully Hyunsung failed. Minchul's group was beaten instead, and they also found out that Hyunsung is protected by the eldest son of the Myungjin company, which means no one in Daesan can touch him. The other student asks if Youngmin is going to give up, but Youngmin says no. He says that now they have a new way to make money, and they should be thankful to Hyunsung. Because of him, they can make a lot of money. Then, he orders the other student to bring the leader of the first-year students to the rooftop. Meanwhile, Hyunsung sits in class, deep in thought. He's trying to figure out how to defeat the Golden Circle. Since they target the smartest students, Hyunsung decides that he needs to keep getting good grades so the Golden Circle will notice him. He suspects that someone in his class or school is working with them, and that person wants to take his spot. He has a few suspects in mind, but he chooses to wait until he has solid proof. For now, his focus is on preparing. After school, Hyunsung goes to visit a man named Jung Dokul. He was once the first MMA fighter from their country to become a UFC world champion, but now he's forgotten, running a small, old gym. Hyunsung walks into the dusty gym and decides to join. He believes this is another important piece of the puzzle that will help him in his mission. Later, a chubby boy named Park Jinwoo is brought to the rooftop by one of the students. Youngmin tells him to do something important. He gives Jinwoo the task of beating Hyunsung so badly that Hyunsung won't be able to fight back ever again. Meanwhile, the story moves back to Hyunsung, who is now in the gym. The gym owner, Do Chul, starts talking about how great his gym is. He mentions that they have the lowest monthly fees and that everyone who trains there is always happy. At first, Hyunsung doesn't recognize him because of his mustache, but after a moment he remembers that Dokul used to be the UFL champion. Dokul asks why Hyunsung came to the gym, and Hyunsung replies that he wants to get strong enough to beat up the bullies. Dochul's face changes when he hears that. His expression becomes serious, and he says he won't allow someone to join his gym if they only want to hurt others. He tells Hyunsung that training is for building strength and discipline, not for revenge. In his mind, Hyunsung remembers Dochul's past. After winning his third match, Dochul was caught using steroids. He didn't try to make excuses, and he admitted it right away, which ended his career. Now, he runs a quiet gym in the countryside. But what impresses Hyunsung the most is Do Chul's skill. Even the second Korean UFL champion said he had trained under Do Chul, and Hyunsung believes that with training like that, he could become stronger too. Hyunsung decides to take advantage of this opportunity. He tells Do Chul that he is just like him. Just as Do Chul took risks to reach his dream, Hyunsung is also ready to do anything to reach his goal. He says that even if it means going to jail, or ending up worse than Dokul, he will do whatever it takes because he is desperate. Dokul feels regretful as he listens. He tells Hyunsung that if he could go back in time, he wouldn't make the same mistake again. He tells Hyunsung to leave because he doesn't want anyone to use violence for revenge. But Hyunsung has one last card to play. He offers Dochul 100 million won. He knows Dochul needs money. Hyunsung tells him that even if he quits in the middle of training, Dochul can keep the full amount. Hyunsung reminds Dochul that he used the drugs by choice, and now Hyunsung is also choosing to walk down a dangerous path. He needs Dochul's help to take his revenge. Dochul listens carefully, thinking it over. Then he says he will never let Hyunsung use drugs like he did, but he will train him properly. Dokul then sets one condition. He tells Hyun-sung that he has to get in the ring and last for one round against him. If Hyun-sung can do that, then he will accept the deal. That night, Hyun-sung comes home with a bruised and beaten face. His grandmother sees him and starts crying. Back at the gym, Do-chul is deep in thought. He starts to think about sending Hyun-sung a message to cancel the deal. He wonders if Hyun-sung is just another kid who will give up once he gets hit, and that's why he made the condition to last one round. He wants to see if Hyun-sung has the heart to keep going, even after getting hurt. The match begins, and Hyun-sung's fighting stance is bad, but he is not scared at all. Do-chul decides to test him. He punches him hard, and his punch breaks through Hyun-sung's weak defense, causing Hyun-sung to bleed. Hyun-sung crashes into the side of the ring and falls to the floor. Do-chul stands over him and says that only 10 seconds have passed. He tells Hyun-sung to get back up. Do-chul keeps punching Hyun-sung with great speed and strength. Each punch is so strong that if one of them hits just right, Hyun-sung could pass out. Suddenly, Do-chul stops punching. Hyun-sung thinks it's over, but Do-chul surprises him with a low kick. Hyun-sung falls to the ground. Do-chul believes that Hyun-sung will finally give up. But Hyun-sung stands up again. The 3 minutes aren't over yet. Do-chul throws more heavy punches. If this keeps going, Hyun-sung's body won't last. He needs to do something fast. He tries to attack, but Do-chul easily dodges and hits him with a strong uppercut. Hyun-sung falls again, coughing up blood. Do-chul is surprised that Hyun-sung lasted a full minute. He keeps trying to make Hyun-sung give up, but Hyun-sung refuses. In the end, he passes the endurance test. Still, because 3 minutes haven't passed, Do-chul feels no need to continue. He begins to walk away from the ring. But to his surprise, Hyun-sung stands up once again, ready to fight. There is no fear in his eyes. Do-chul can see that Hyun-sung is serious. He decides to end this quickly before something bad happens. He tells Hyun-sung that he will now fight at full power. Do-chul starts punching Hyun-sung as hard as he can. After several strong hits, he stops again. Hyun-sung thinks Do-chul is going to use a low kick like before, but he is wrong. This time, Do-chul hits Hyun-sung in the stomach with a powerful uppercut. Hyun-sung falls to the ground right away. There is still 1.5 minutes left. Do-chul tells Hyun-sung that if he doesn't stand up in 15 seconds, he will lose. Hyun-sung tries to move, but his body doesn't listen. Every time Hyun-sung tries to stand, his legs shake and his body falls again, the pain in his liver sharp like fire burning inside, and Do-chul thinks this is it. Hyun-sung has hit his real limit because even strong fighters drop down after a punch like that. But then something changes because deep inside his fading mind, Hyun-sung sees the past again, the days. He lay in a hospital bed, not able to move, not even lift a finger, crying inside, begging the world to give him just one more chance. And now that memory lights a fire in him, and he uses all the strength in his heart and pulls his body up again while the crowd watches in silence, and Do-chul can't believe it, because no normal person can stand like this, not after taking a liver shot that heavy. And Do-chul starts thinking maybe Hyun-sung has lived through things even worse than this. Maybe that's why his eyes still burn with fight. And now, for the first time, Do-chul feels fear. Not because he might lose, but because he sees where Hyun-sung's path is going. And if this boy gains real power, the pain, the revenge, it might eat him alive. And Do-chul doesn't want that to happen, so he decides to stop him right now before it's too late, and he rushes in again. Fists flying harder and faster, blood spraying with every hit. Hyun-sung's nose breaks, his teeth fly out, but his feet stay planted, like a tree in the storm, and the time keeps ticking down, the seconds falling fast, and now only 12 seconds left, and Hyun-sung still doesn't fall. He takes every hit like a wall that refuses to break, and Do-chul's fists slow down. Not because he's tired, but because he knows he already lost. And finally the bell rings and the match ends, and Hyun-sung still stands beaten and bloody, but not broken, and now Do-chul has no choice left, so he lowers his fists and accepts Hyun-sung's offer. A few days ago, Do-chul gets a tempting offer from the Fighting Association. They want him to use drugs and fight in a match to make the crowd go wild. But Do-chul says no, because Hyun-sung already gave him a lot of money and that changes everything. So he turns his back on them, and now the scene shifts to Hyun-sung, who is quietly eating dinner with his grandmother at home, as he tells her he got into a fight again at school, and then casually asks if she still has that housing savings account. And she nods and says yes, she has been putting in 100,000 every month for many years without fail. Then Hyun-sung tells her about this new apartment project from the Myungjin company and asks her to apply for it, and she laughs, saying even if they win the lottery draw, they won't have enough money to actually move in, but Hyun-sung says they can borrow from the bank and sell their old flat to cover the cost, and she chuckles, saying he's starting to sound like a real estate agent now. But what she doesn't know is that Hyun-sung already asked Chang Byum to secretly rig the draw and put her name on the winner list because he wants to give her 100 million won without her ever knowing where it came from. So she doesn't get suspicious, and all she needs to do is just fill out the application form. And now the next day comes, and Jinwoo goes up to the rooftop where Youngmin praises him and says, "Good job for beating Hyun-sung," and Jinwoo is confused at first because he never fought Hyun-sung, but when he sees how kind Youngmin is being, he just plays along and pretends it's true. Then later, Jinwoo walks into Hyun-sung's classroom and is shocked when he sees Hyun-sung bruised all over. So now Jinwoo really believes someone already beat Hyun-sung and starts thinking that Hyun-sung is actually weak and easy to crush, and proudly says next time he will be the one to beat him, and then orders his friends to spread the word that anyone who talks to Hyun-sung will get hurt badly. And now the scene shifts to the gym where Duchul is training Hyun-sung hard, telling him to build stamina and train at least 2 hours every single day. And Hyun-sung agrees because he knows if he wants to beat Youngmin, he has to give everything he has, since Youngmin isn't even his final goal, and if he wants to destroy the Golden Circle, he must become stronger than even him. And Duchul is surprised by how much Hyun-sung can handle, because the training is brutal and constant, but Hyun-sung never stops, never takes a break, and just keeps pushing through, and Duchul starts thinking about a special training plan he developed after getting kicked out of the ring a long time ago when he decided to live clean and train without any drugs, and now he wants Hyun-sung to follow that same path. So he introduces the new plan and says if Hyun-sung can endure it, he'll become strong enough to make anyone bow. And now 1 week later, Hyun-sung is quietly studying in class when Kim Si-woo walks up to him and tells him he's changed a lot since the last time they saw each other, and says he was scared to talk before, but now he wants to be friends again, because he doesn't want to be like the others who are ignoring Hyun-sung. And Hyun-sung didn't even know he was being isolated like that, so Si-woo tells him it's because Jinwoo is threatening everyone and telling them to stay away, and Hyun-sung asks why Si-woo is talking to him, and Si-woo looks nervous but says they've known each other since elementary school and he couldn't just watch anymore while Hyun-sung gets bullied. And now Hyun-sung remembers that in the past, Si-woo once stood up for him, and for a short time things felt free and good. But then Min Cheol's gang started bullying Si-woo too and broke his leg, so after that Si-woo acted like he didn't even know Hyun-sung anymore, and the bullying kept going and going, and one day when Hyun-sung was lying in a vegetative state, Si-woo came and apologized and said he was scared, but if he ever had another chance, he would never leave Hyun-sung alone again. And now back in the classroom, Hyun-sung tells Si-woo not to pretend like they're friends and to just ignore him like before, but Si-woo says he'll talk again after the next break and leaves the room and says he won't let Hyun-sung be alone no matter what. And Hyun-sung feels torn because he knows his revenge path is dangerous and he wants to cut off everyone except for his family so nobody else gets hurt. But when the next break comes and Si-woo doesn't return, Hyun-sung packs his bag and wonders if Si-woo gave up, but then he hears that Youngmin took Si-woo, and without wasting a second, Hyun-sung runs out to find him. Jinwoo walks closer to Si-woo with that same angry face he always shows when things don't go his way, and he tries to scare him like he scared the others before, because he already told everyone to stay away from Hyun-sung, but this time it doesn't work because Si-woo stands tall and doesn't look away, and even says that Hyun-sung is his friend, and he won't stop being close to him no matter what Jinwoo says or does, and in that moment Si-woo makes up his mind and chooses to fight without wasting a single second. Right away, Si-woo lifts his leg and sends out a strong kick that lands right on Jinwoo's body, and it hits hard enough to knock him down to the floor, which makes Jinwoo so mad that he yells at his gang to jump in and beat Si-woo up. And even though they rush at him all at once, Si-woo doesn't back down and uses his kicks and punches to fight them off for a little while, but there are too many of them, and slowly they start surrounding him and hitting him from every side, so it gets harder to fight back. Si-woo keeps fighting even though he knows Hyun-sung didn't want him to get in trouble and had asked him not to do anything crazy, but when he saw Jinwoo picking on Hyun-sung again, he just couldn't sit back and watch because this is his childhood friend and he cares too much to pretend like nothing's happening. So even while getting hit, he tells himself that he won't stop, and he won't give up on Hyun-sung no matter how many of them try to stop him. Then Jinwoo comes in again, and this time he kicks Si-woo and starts punching over and over, because now he knows Si-woo can fight, and he realizes he knows Taekwondo. And that only makes him more angry, so he starts saying he'll make life hard for both Siwoo and Hyunsung, and he keeps punching again and again, hitting Siwoo so many times that it seems like it won't stop until the door slams open with a loud bang and everyone looks. Hyunsung walks in with slow, cold steps, not looking scared at all, because he already decided before that he would deal with Jinwoo himself, and now he sees the right time has come, and even though Jinwoo is bigger and stronger looking, Hyunsung knows he can't beat him with strength alone, so he chooses a smarter way and starts talking to Jinwoo in a way that makes him mad on purpose, like saying things that hit where it hurts most. He says something that makes everyone around them laugh, like saying Siwoo would have beaten Jinwoo if it was a one-on-one fight, and that makes Jinwoo go crazy with anger because now even the other students are laughing and pointing and he can't take the shame anymore, so he charges straight at Hyunsung without thinking. But Hyunsung has been trained by Dushul, and he remembers everything he learned, so when Jinwoo runs at him full of rage, Hyunsung sees all the weak spots and dodges and punches back with a quick strike to the face that stops Jinwoo for a second. And then he keeps going without letting Jinwoo rest even for a moment, hitting him again and again and saying more words to make Jinwoo lose control even more. Then when the time is just right, Hyunsung throws a big uppercut that hits Jinwoo so hard he almost falls, and after that, Hyunsung keeps kicking him over and over, and it feels like a storm hitting from every side, like he's making Jinwoo feel everything he ever did to others, and he keeps going until Jinwoo falls down and starts begging him to stop. Hyunsung stands over him and looks around at all the students who are now watching in silence and fear, and he asks Jinwoo in front of everyone if he really beat him before, like the rumors say, and Jinwoo, shaking and scared, admits that it was never true, and that Youngmin told him to lie. So Hyunsung looks down at him one last time and gives him a final warning. He tells them all never to touch Siwoo again, and then kicks Jinwoo once more, saying if they do anything like this again, even if they hide or run far away, he will find them and he will make them pay for it. Later, inside the quiet infirmary where the air smells like medicine and the only sound is the soft hum of machines, Hyunsung sits beside Siwoo's bed, his eyes looking at the floor as he tells Siwoo that if he had just stayed away and not spoken to him, then maybe he wouldn't have gotten hurt so badly. But Siwoo, still bruised and tired, slowly turns his head and says he saw Hyunsung rushing in before he passed out, and he knows that Hyunsung is not different from him, because when Hyunsung found out Jinwoo took him, he came running without even thinking twice, just like a true friend would do. Siwoo reaches out with his hand, weak but firm, and grabs Hyunsung's hand tightly, and he tells him that no matter what Hyunsung says, they are friends and will always be friends. So Hyunsung doesn't need to draw lines between them like they are strangers who don't care, and even if the day repeats again and again, Siwoo says he will always make the same choice because Hyunsung is worth it. Hyunsung stays quiet for a moment, then looks up and says something shocking, that it wasn't Minchul's group who started the fight that day, but it was Hyunsung himself. He started it on purpose because those people are trash and they deserve to be destroyed. And then he looks at Siwoo with serious eyes and tells him this is only the beginning, and his real goal is to tear every gangster in this school into pieces no matter how long it takes or how much he has to lose. He stands up slowly, his voice turning cold and distant, and he says something heavy, that something very terrible happened to him in the past, something that changed everything, and he tells Siwoo to stop being silly because if Siwoo keeps acting like they are close, then Siwoo will keep getting hurt, and Hyunsung doesn't want to see that again. Hyunsung says Siwoo is weak, someone who gets beaten by people like Jinwoo, and even if Hyunsung still sees him as a friend, that is all there is now. He is no longer the same kind boy from before, and he tells himself that if he makes Siwoo feel frustrated and sad, then maybe he will stay away from this dark path because Hyunsung knows that Siwoo will never be able to handle what's coming. Hyunsung walks away without looking back, but inside his heart, he thanks Siwoo for always standing by him. Then the scene changes and now Youngmin is laughing quietly while counting a big stack of money, proud of himself for getting so much just by hurting a few kids. And now he is thinking about his future, dreaming about becoming a full-time broker for the Golden Circle and making big money even after graduation by using all his dirty connections. But his moment of joy ends when the classroom door bursts open and Hyunsung walks in, his face full of anger as he calls Youngmin a bastard with no hesitation, and Youngmin, now standing up, shouts back with rage, but before he can do anything else, Hyunsung kicks him hard. Youngmin blocks it, but Hyunsung does not stop and keeps punching and kicking again and again, not letting Youngmin breathe for a second. Youngmin stays calm because he notices Hyunsung's punches are not very strong and his moves are easy to read, so he defends well until suddenly Hyunsung lands a punch right into Youngmin's stomach, shocking him because he didn't see it coming. And right after that, Hyunsung tells Youngmin his name, and when Youngmin tries to ask something, Hyunsung doesn't let him speak and grabs a chair and swings it at him. Hyunsung knows he cannot lose, not even for a second, because if he does, then it's all over. So he throws the chair again, but Youngmin dodges it fast and then grabs Hyunsung's next move, stopping it in midair, and this time Youngmin counters and throws a punch, but Hyunsung guards his face because he thinks the hit is going there, but it's a trick. Youngmin hits him in the gut instead. But even that pain is nothing compared to the training Hyunsung had with Dushul, so he takes it and stays standing. Even though he knew from the beginning that he cannot beat Youngmin, this fight is not about winning. It's about proving something to himself, that he can stand up no matter how strong the enemy is. So Hyunsung keeps taking the hits, doing nothing but stepping forward and taking more punches, waiting for the right moment. Then he grabs one of Youngmin's fists and holds it tight and suddenly uses all his strength to throw Youngmin toward the classroom window, and the glass shatters with a loud crash, but Youngmin barely holds onto the ledge, breathing hard. Youngmin, shocked, asks what Hyunsung wants, and when Hyunsung says he wants one of them to die, Youngmin feels fear crawl into his chest because he sees in Hyunsung's eyes that he is serious. This is not a bluff. The whole class starts screaming, and rushing forward, some kids pull Hyunsung away and try to drag him out of the room. But before he leaves, Hyunsung turns his head and says, if Youngmin ever lays a finger on his friend again, he will make sure to hit him with a chair every single time they meet until Youngmin is dead. The students finally get Hyunsung out of the class, and the room is quiet again except for the sound of broken glass and heavy breathing, and one of Youngmin's friends comes up and asks if he's okay. But Youngmin, still angry, says he was the one beating Hyunsung, not the other way around. His friend says sorry and tells him that his back is bleeding badly from the glass and it looks serious. After about 30 minutes, the school speaker turns on and the principal's voice echoes through the hall, calling out the names of the students who need to come to the principal's office.